Good evening, folks. It's Diamond with the Oppenheimer Ranch Project, Magnetic Reversal News, Sacred Geography, and Shinrin Yoku, bringing you a grand solar minimum update Wednesday, March 29th, around 9 p.m. Mountain Time 2023. If you look at the data, the South San Joaquin Valley and Lake Tulare is going to flood in epic proportions. Here is the average reservoir plus snowpack over the last several years. Here is the current reservoir plus snowpack. It is about to flood in epic proportions. And that's the big story. Powder alert. Snow apocalypse continues through early April for the West. Keep calm. It's boom time. Denver's coldest start to a year since 1979. There will be skiing on the 4th of July. Plus, once-in-a-generation snow hits North America's hottest desert. And we're talking about the Sonoran Desert, which spans 100,000 miles across Mexico and the southwest U.S., buried in snow. And this is a shot from Arizona. Holy macaroni. Thunderstorms and snow in Minnesota Thursday and Friday, and that could be 2 to 7 inches possible for the Twin Cities metro, as well as heavy snow for northern Wisconsin. The full forecast is coming up in just a moment. Did you hear about hail up to tennis ball size hitting North Escambia? Yeah, that's in Florida. These are big mama jammas, 2.5 inches or more, and that means that rare supersized hail destroys all of the crops at a local vegetable farm. Supersized hail lashed a portion of the North Escambia area Tuesday morning, destroying all of the crops at Davisville Produce Farm. And that is bad news. This is the remaining winter crops and all of the spring crops that they had just planted. Sign of the times. Here's another sign of the times. Extreme snowpack. It is going to be the largest snowpack in all of Utah's history, all of the Sierra's history. The snow on the models is going to continue to fall through mid-April in both places. And that means bad news for the South San Joaquin Valley, who hasn't seen this amount of snow ever. And the last 2 times the snowpack was this big, and the snowpack is still growing, we had the 2 largest flood events back in 83 and I believe 1954 back in California. So the 2023 floods are going to be nothing less than spectacular. Keep a close eye on Lake Tulare. As you can see here in this graphic, the blue regions are currently flooded as of yesterday, and that is about 178 square miles. When the basin fills, it will be over 1,000 square miles flooded. And once it floods to that depth, it takes over a year to drain. Now let's take a look at AccuWeather's 2023 Atlantic hurricane season forecast. Florida will once again be at big risk for landfalling tropical systems this upcoming season, which begins just in about 2 months. And here is the AccuWeather forecast for the Atlantic hurricane season outlook for 2023. They were way off on 2022, but let's take a look at the 2023 forecast. It's basically the 30-year average. Yep, 11 to 15 named storms. The 30-year average is 14 named storms. The number of hurricanes will be 4 to 8, and the typical amount is 7 on the 30-year average. Major hurricanes, 1 to 3. The 30-year average is 3, so that's on the low side, and direct impacts 2 to 4 on land, and 4 is the average. So that is the Atlantic hurricane season outlook. Take heed. And here's the forecast. Northeast snow squalls possible. Western active weather continues. A fast-moving cold front will bring snow and potential for snow squalls across the Northeast. Locally, heavy rain continues in California with heavy mountain snow extending from California to the intermontane West. As this storm ejects into the plains later this week, a multi-hazard impact will stretch from the lower Mississippi Valley to the Great Lakes. Click on your county for more information. All the links will be below the video. Here's the GFS model, and you can see that storm battering the west and moving into the intermontane. That will continue to happen through Thursday and Friday as a system develops around this low on Friday and explodes over the northern plains. Here we're going to see some ice and mixing in Wisconsin and Minnesota, and behind it, it's going to be cold and heavy snow on Saturday as the system moves rapidly up into Canada by Sunday morning, and then a little peppering of some flurries in the northeast. Let's take a look at the snowfall totals, shall we? And let's just move this model back here. Here is Thursday into Friday morning. So heavy snow will continue to fall all the way south into the southern mountains. Snow will continue in eastern Nevada, all of Utah, all of the high mountains in most of Idaho, western Montana, and western Colorado. And then by Friday, that system is going to bomb out and move through the northern plains, leaving a swath of 16 inches of snow, most notably in northern Wisconsin and South Dakota, while a swath of it will move up into Quebec and Montreal, into those Canadian provinces that we don't talk about so much. And you can see the snow falling in the northeast at the same time through the end of the weekend. And as we move the models through, here is Tuesday, Wednesday, April 5th, another system moving through the northern plains, April 7th, April 8th, April 9th. The snow, April 10th, continues to batter on the models. So stay tuned. It's looking like quite an epic snow year. Seismic update, no quakes of note. Interesting rocker up in Wyoming, 3.7 in Mammoth. I'm sure a lot of people fear-mongering about Yellowstone. That means nothing. That's normal activity. No other quakes of note. We do have a small cluster in Tonga that we should keep a close eye on. Most of these are up near, that's at 200. Wow, these are quite deep except for one. So this event might be over, kids. But all is quiet on the Western Front. Worldwide volcano news update. We've got Fuego, Popo, Chivalouche to 15,000, Fuego to 15, Popo to 23,000. What else is on the list? Well, Bezimiani kicked it up a notch about 36 hours ago. New eruption this morning with elevated activity. You can see that's quite powerful. I think it went to 18,000 feet. Sabancaya, Fuego to 15 here, and we do have Krakatoa puffing and passing with spectacular eruptions today. Minor, albeit just to 2.7 kilometers. Space weather news update. An impulsive X-flare coming off from an active region we warned about as being the only potential spot for action, and there's not going to be any numbers on that one. So let's click this one, and that would be active region 3256, which is now turned away and is around the limb, but created a flurry of activity as it moved away from us, as the Earth-facing quiet does. So that's good news for us. The Earth-facing quiet means that like beta, gamma, or more dangerous sunspots tend not to flare when they face Earth, and they only flare on the limb. None of this is very geo-effective, or do we have to worry about it? But an impulsive X-flare nonetheless. 3-day geomagnetic forecast, all quiet on the Western Front as solar indices drop into the green. Now, mysterious aurora-like phenomenon called Steve that was just named a few years ago due to the waning magnetosphere appears during the strongest solar storm in more than half a decade. And this was the one that just happened last week. Steve was spotted across the U.S. and in parts of the UK. Hey, and it was spectacular. Here's a shot of Steve from the Canyonlands, just right outside my door. We also have pictures of Steve from the Badlands, a little further north, but Steve indeed. This is a sign of the times and the changing magnetic environment we live in. Auroras will only increase. Now, if you've been watching the show from the rip, about 5 years ago, mainstream science was saying that auroras were going to be a thing of the past. Well, just like every other announcement, they were wrong. And we were right. Steve is back and is going to stay for quite some time. Now, here's an interesting story. Water is trapped in glass beads on the moon's surface. And this is a new study coming out from the new samples coming out from the Chang'e 5 mission from China. So if you want to know where water can come from on planet Earth or even the moon, it's coming from the solar wind, and this paper proves it. And what it also proves is that Doug Vogt and Ben Davidson are making up fairy tales. Both of them claimed recently in podcasts that these glass beads are coming from the sun. Now, while they may be produced by solar outbursts or superflares, they are not the shell of the sun or parts of the sun landing on the moon. It's just a stupid idea, and it's not based on any science. In fact, if any of them took the time to read this paper, they would have come across the facts. And those are that. Among them, 32 impact glass beads characterized by smooth, exposed surfaces and chemical compositions consistent with the bulk CE5 basalts. Now, let me tell you what that means in layman's terms. It means that the glass beads are melted basalt from the surface of the moon, not from the sun. Now, the water inside the beads, however, may be from the solar wind, which would give us a mechanism which is superflare. So a superflare hit the sun or hit the moon, melted the surface, and the glass beads are the melted surface of the moon, not the sun. So that is the facts on the science on what the sun can do to the moon and the earth. It can send out massive superflares that melt the surface. It's not the sun that's hitting, it's the energy from the sun that melts the surface. And this is based on chemical analysis. The chemical analysis of the glass is exactly the same as the basalts that are surrounding and in the same sample. So I hope you got something out of that analysis and maybe leave you pause to listen to some of the other people making things up. Now, we can't make this up because we've got the paper. There is an extraterrestrial mineral harder than diamond. And guess where it was discovered? Here on Earth. Absolutely mind-blowing. A mineral new to science has been found inside bits of a volcanic rock in a valley below Mount Carmel in northern Israel. The dark-colored new mineral called carmelazite was formed when the eruption of some rather puny volcanoes along the Carmel Crest some time ago during the Cretaceous, when dinosaurs were walking the land. Now, what's interesting is that the lava melted some extraterrestrial rocks or tektites. And this is what happened. The mineral mix constituting carmeltazite has been identified in rocks from outer space, according to Abram Taub, the CEO of the Israeli Gemstone Mining Company. But this is the first time it's been found on Earth. Wow. Now, how did a rock better known to be in outer space wind up in the Zevulun Valley by the Carmel, in Israel? Who knows? But apparently, this may be a piece of the comet that killed off the dinosaurs, perhaps. What say you? Leave your comments below. All the links to all these articles will be below so you can do your own due diligence. Now, a strange-shaped sea mountain has been discovered off the coast of Northern California, and it is unique. There are seamounts off the coast of California that we know of, but this seamount is an outlier. It's sitting all by itself. The seamount was found about 180 nautical miles west of Cape Mendocino in Humboldt County. A strange-shaped 3,300-foot tall underwater volcano with almost near vertical walls has been discovered 184 miles off the North California coast. The sea mountain or seamount appears more like a smooth-sided circular tower with near vertical sides rather than a craggy mountain. It was found in February by the Ocean Mapping Autonomous Sailboat as part of a multi-agency survey led by NOAA. And there is the device in question. But totally spectacular, under 2 miles of water and almost a mile-high volcano off the coast of Cape Mendocino. Now, this is disgusting news. A giant meatball from the extinct mammoth was unveiled by a food firm. This meatball was made of sheep cells inserted with a singular mammoth gene called myoglobin. African elephant DNA was inserted to complete it. Well, and the meatball looks absolutely disgusting. First of all, because it was made in a lab. Now, what do you say about this? Will you be eating any mammoth meatballs made in a lab anytime soon? I doubt it. Just like the Beyond Meat and all those other fake meat companies that are failing, I don't think this one has traction, to be quite honest. There's plenty of wild animals that taste delicious that I don't need to be eating some multinational corporations' lab-grown meat. That sounds not only disgusting, but dangerous. Here's what else is dangerous. Humans will achieve immortality in just 8 years, according to former Google engineer who has predicted the future with 86% accuracy. And the last thing we need is people like Klaus Schwab or Bill Gates to become immortal. Who wants to be immortal anyway? I'll give myself a few more decades and I'm good to go. I want to return to source. Maybe so I can be recycled and come back again and help out one more time. But Ray Kurzweil predicts nanobots will help achieve human immortality. The technology will repair cells and tissues that deteriorate as the body ages. So it's not like a head's going to be cut off in some cryo fluid with some computers and you're going to be like, You'll actually just be able to rejuvenate your body if you've got enough money and you know the right people. This is bad for all of humanity because clearly this technology will not be available to all people in just a few years. Now, will it? Well, there's no need to think that the empire will last that long and that the technology needed to create it will be sustained. Xi Jinping says he is preparing China for war. And a war with Taiwan may just well spark World War III and the end of technology as you know it. So if you're preparing for the worst case scenario, what better thing to do this weekend than to come get free seeds in the San Luis Valley? You might be scratching by. You don't have any money. If you can get gas money and get out to Moffett on Saturday, April 1st, you're going to see a plethora of amazing speakers. There will be amazing vendors, and there'll be free seeds. And if you come visit our booth, free cannabis like we give out every year. I'm going to bring 5-6 ounces of the best cannabis we grew last year to share with the public. So join us. Lee and I will be speaking at 11 a.m. Saturday, April 1st at Joyful Journeys Hot Springs in the San Luis Valley. And that's a boom to knowledge. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Give us a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. Support us by becoming a Patreon and watching all of our video content commercial free. You can also ask me anything at 5.me/diamond. All the links will be below. And we'll see you in the San Luis Valley this weekend. Be safe. We love you.